Hello and welcome back to the Gravity Doctors. I'm Dr. Lachlan Kent, and today I'm joined by Professor Brennan Spiegel, and we're talking about the Artemis mission that launched, orbited the moon, and landed in the last couple of weeks. Really captured the world's attention in a good way for once. And these are just our reflections on what it means for humanity to overcome the Earth's pull, escape to another heavenly body, orbit around it, if not land, and then come back. Yes, we're doing biogravitational medicine. That's very, grounded and in the body and in the mind. But what does it mean sort of socially and almost spiritually for humanity to approach gravity and overcome it with all our understanding, with all our sort of joy and awe-inspiring dedication? And it's still relevant to what we're doing because, as you'll see in the episode, it means a lot to us personally, and we're sure that it will mean something to you as well. So enjoy. So Brennan, Artemis, it's obviously one of the key news events of the year. I mean, there was a lot of news happening at the time that was, let's say, less unifying across the world, but as with the moon landing in the 20th century and the 21st century, it looks like our mission to the moon is this global unifier. Everyone is behind it. Doesn't matter which country's doing it. There's more, obviously, it's more than one country this time. You've got Canada up there as well. But we've got one of humanity's greatest achievements has been going to the moon, fighting gravity physically and getting to another heavenly body. And now we're going back again. You're an American. How did this resonate with you? How did you feel the specialness of what we're doing, given your work in biogravitational medicine, watching these astronauts go into the unfamiliar zero-G environment, these immense G-forces? I watched their re-entry back into Earth. There's a really cool 25-minute video of the capsule re-entering that's just like the tail cam, and you can see the swirling plasma and everything and the sound effects. That was really mesmerizing, and that's what got me emotionally, like just the pure speed that we have to create to get to the moon, to get to another gravitational body. You just need such force to get there, such immense forces, and the human body has to go there. It just felt we're so fragile and those forces are so immense. That was the thing for me.
Yeah, I have a mixture of emotions and thoughts about such a momentous occasion. It's obviously a feat of physics, as you say, just to propel and untether from the pull of Mother Earth. Just never get used to that. And just the psychology of it, the philosophy of it, the physics of it, the existential reality of hearing people talk about what it's like to look back upon the planet with the moon in the foreground. So I was listening to the press conference, and one of the astronauts, I can't remember her name, was reflecting on how, as a crew, they work together in unison to achieve this feat. But then at one point, they look back upon the planet and realize that that's a crew too, that we are a crew on Spaceship Earth. And, to hear it from somebody who is off planet, farther than any human has ever been from our planet, is really like profound. It's so poignant to me to hear their reflections upon that journey. So I really enjoyed thinking about it, hearing them talk about it. I can only imagine what it was like when the first moon landing occurred, and just the feat of humanity. I think we sort of take that for granted, but at the same time, like you said, it's really a unifying experience to see humans get that far away from our planet.
And it was the emotion that they expressed, that photo of them all hugging each other and a big smile on the pilot's face. His was the only face you could see, but just the pure joy of being up there. They were able to express it. They were able to communicate with their families. Like it was just, there was something really special about the contrast between, Apollo 11, 1960s, kind of stoic, male pilots, very
Mm.
white, sort of, emotionally restrained. You know how I think about British people. Oh, but well done, sir. Well done, sir. Well done, sir. Now they're just
Yeah.
big hugs, big
Major Tom to ground
smiles.
control. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there were women in the ground control as well, sort of leading the
Yeah.
comms. I don't know. It just felt more human this time. Like, obviously we weren't
Mm.
alive, or I wasn't alive for the last one. This one just felt so much more immediate. The technology is better, the comms are better. I don't know, it just felt I got really emotional just in watching that descent and thinking the risk that these people are taking, but the
Mm.
smile on their face, like having
Yeah.
watched the joy that they're taking this risk of falling. So we talk about, falling is a bad thing. You don't want to fall because, that indicates, you could die. These gut feelings, you've got, an instinct to not die. Well, humanity's transcending that, aren't we? We're going to places where we are deliberately falling at immense speeds, where it's instant death if something goes wrong. And yet they're doing it with this smile on their face. So it kind of teaches us there's more nuance here than just falling's bad, weight is bad, gravity, is a bad thing. I think that's what we say. Gravity is a good thing, and us fighting it is it's a life force in itself. At what keeps us motivated, and what's the ultimate motivation now for humanity as a whole, in my view, is the moon. Now, I think it's re-entered people's consciousness that the moon is somewhere we really need to go, and it's a positive focus rather than thinking let's carve up the earth and who's dominating and who's climbing the tree and who's the biggest monkey beating their chest. It's like,
Yeah.
no, let's do it together. Let's do it with a massive smile, even though, just like as with war, your life is on the line. There is potential sacrifice here. I don't know. It's such amazing timing for us. We're working on gravity. I'm launching mental gravity, kind of this week. It's kind of happening at the same time I was in America for your conference, like the week before. It just all felt really, for me personally, just amazing timing and amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are great reflections that resonate with me. And as you're talking, I'm also thinking about how I conclude the book, right? That's right behind you on the right, Pull.
Mm,
And I talk about how, in a way, our existential mission in life is to stand up and stay up as long as we can and as well as we can until
mm,
inevitably we're pulled back down, at least physically. Maybe
mm,
spiritually we rise, but the story of humanity has been one of standing up, right?
mm,
Evolutionarily and biologically. And we have all these pumps and tubes in our bodies that we've talked about in previous sessions that allow us to get up and move about, not get pulled down. And then eventually we used our intelligence to build machines that allowed us to fly, and now it's routine to be in the air, and now the next stage is just to blast off, to break the tether of the earth itself,
mm.
um, and to go as far as any human has ever gone before, which is
Yeah.
really, I think, kind of lost in at least my view of the coverage, that it's not just that we went back to the moon, we've been there, it's that we went all the way around the thing,
Mm,
farther than any human has before. And it's kind of the next stage in our anti-gravity mission
mm.
to go beyond our planet.
Yeah.
Now, we can talk about whether that's a good idea or not, you know, on many levels, psychologically, philosophically, existentially,
Mm,
biologically. But it seems like it's in our genes that we want to keep going.
yeah.
And I am moved by the idea that consciousness is sort of like a tenuous spark or flame in this vast expanse of nothingness. And we need to find ways to bring consciousness beyond our current planet. And, that's
Mm,
the ultimate existential mission of space travel, really, is to
mm.
bring consciousness elsewhere.
And I think there are sort of doubters out there who think, oh, it's just human greed. We're just going there to mine the moon and exploit it, or going to Mars. That's going to be a one-way journey to nowhere. Like, there are detractors who just think, we've got a planet here that we need there was a lot of coverage or a lot of commentary that I heard of, we need to fix things on Earth before we spend money on
Mm,
space. Like, that completely misses the point of having, goals that drive you towards new understanding. And I actually think about that word understanding. I was talking to my son yesterday. We were talking about him growing up. So we use the metaphor for
mm,
growing up. I mean, he is obviously getting taller, but growing up is this, greater metaphor. Even once you've hit your maximum physical height, there's still personal growth mindset people talk about a lot.
right.
But I was trying to talk to him about, okay, you develop and you grow and you get extra, opportunities, but with that you have to develop a deeper understanding of how the world works. Like, you need to have stability in that. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to go and drive a car when I get my license and not understand the risks and not understand how to drive. Like, you
Mhm.
need the science of how to make that safe and a joy to do, and not just an unacceptable risk. And that understanding, imagine the understanding that we've gotten from space missions, the scientific
Mm,
understanding,
mm,
physics, rockets, propulsion, uh, the composition of the moon, the composition of moons around Jupiter. We've got the Voyager spacecraft now outside of the solar system that I think we're still in some form of contact with. That understanding, like, just scientifically, but then understanding is not just mechanical and scientific. It's also, like you say, it's experiential, and it's
mm,
a collective consciousness. We have a
mm.
different understanding, a different
That's
appreciation
right.
of humanity's place in the universe that is worthwhile, I believe, regardless of what's happening on Earth for some intractable problems that I think we're always going to have with territoriality and history, creating conflicts that are just seemingly in an endless cycle. This might be the way to break that cycle. We get the human universal appreciation and motivation behind it. That just seems so critical. And for me, it's all about gravity. It's all about gravity is what keeps us on the planet. Getting off the planet, we have, as a species, done something incredible, done something that no other species has done. We feel special as humans, but it's not just a human thing.
Yeah.
Work.
But
Yep.
so, really what this is about is pioneering.
Mm,
When we pioneer, we are exploring the unknown,
mm,
things that are not known, and we're learning about them. And that's science. Science is when we systematically, um, you know, explore and understand the unknown and make
mm.
sense of the parts that we don't understand yet.
Yeah.
And so there's plenty of that still to do on our planet, right? But there's lots to do outside of our planet too. And I'm thinking about what you said about growing up and even something like driving. You know, to be able to drive, not only do you have to, have the cognitive ability and the decision making and the executive function, but you have to actually understand gravity. You have to have enough experience with G forces,
Mm,
which is why I can't be a Formula One driver
mm,
and I can't be an astronaut because I personally have not experienced any of those kinds of physics
mm,
and wouldn't even know whether my body could respond to them or how it could respond. So, even like that's something that we learn by putting people in space. Uh, and then once we're in space, we have these few people who are trying to figure out what is it like? Like, what's the phenomenology like? That even the
mm,
most descriptive, qualitative, earliest data points about being off planet. I
mm,
mean, what could be more extraordinary than those data points?
mm.
And recently, I don't know if you've seen this movie yet, the Hail Mary Project.
I
Have you
haven't.
seen
No.
this?
No.
Such a great, great movie.
Mm,
Definitely watch it. I won't make no spoilers here, but you know, it's really an exploration of these ideas
mm,
of thinking about the unknown and what does that mean about our reality right here back on Earth. Uh,
mm,
so yeah, I mean these are big philosophical concepts, and this is where my mind goes when I think about Artemis and I think about our work with biogravitational medicine and how it's sort of on the edge of understanding our reality. And that's what
Mm.
this exercise of space voyage, allows us to think about.
So, in terms of mental gravity as a way to think about yourself, not the world, but yourself, there are real parallels in gaining perspective, in thinking about yourself from the third person, from an elevation, rather than being radically embodied and feeling like you're just stuck within yourself. So if you're stuck within the Earth's gravitational pull, I think that is, if humanity was condemned to that, or we just resigned ourselves to that, that's
Mm,
akin to depression. That's like losing. There's no point doing that. That's what that's a hopeless mission. There's no hope for the future, for exploring different possibilities. Let's just sit back and make sure that we're safe and uh, secure in this little confined environment. I think depression is often about a lack of exploration.
mm,
There's no point in getting up and going out, so I'll just
mm,
stay in where I can predict things more, where I can predict things better. So in talking to people, there is, okay, you've got to think about yourself from like an astronaut's point of view. That's where there's this sort of sense of freedom of, I'm actually
mm.
just a small part of a system.
Yes.
I'm not the main protagonist. I don't have to think about myself as a protagonist all the time. I'm part of something, and that's where we get meaning and purpose
Yes.
and connection. And that's what the Artemis astronauts talk about. They get this radical, instant sense of uh, universalism, that all humanity is stuck on this one little rock. This is amazing. We need to protect it. We need to protect each other and work together towards more of this. This is a worthwhile thing to be doing. And in sort of mental gravity coaching, or I don't call it therapy because it's on the mental health promotion side at the moment, a way of thinking about yourself in those sort of astronomical terms. Like, think about yourself as something, or think about the world that you inhabit as bigger than yourself. That decentering can be very freeing for people. And I think especially people those who might be prone to, you know, negative mindsets, whether that's depression or just in daily life or in their current situation. I think it can be really freeing to feel that instant sense of elevation and connection.
Mm. Yeah, I have a few reflections on that. First, the idea that we're kind of contained in this cocoon or this lifeboat or whatever the right metaphor is.
Mm,
And that could be perceived, if I'm following you, as a form of depression if we never believe we can get beyond it.
mm,
If, this is it. Now,
yep,
maybe that's okay because this is an extraordinary world that we live in that
yep,
seems infinite
mm,
in its capacity to delight and to change and to evolve, and we don't need anything else. We don't need to elevate beyond it, and yet we
mm,
have this instinct, at least some of us, right, to want to elevate beyond the grasp of our planet's pull, to
mm,
go out into the stars. And we look up at the stars, we see inspiration above. And we've
mm,
talked before about even the language that we use, how upward language tends to be inspiring and positive, and downward language tends to be more negative, more depressive.
mm,
We're high on drugs, we're down in the in the dumps, and
yep,
so on. And yet I'm also thinking about how there's, an existential dread to go off the lifeboat
mm,
and to the ocean around us, because that's instant death.
yep,
And you think about what astronauts on the International Space Station describe. It kind of depends on which portal they're looking out of. If they're
mm.
looking out the portal that, has a view of
Contains
Earth,
Earth, yeah,
and they often refer to this sense of awe, this overview effect, as it's called, that, when you see the earth, our home, in situ all at once, you realize that, wow, I'm part of something bigger than myself. People get chills, but
Mm.
it's a positive emotion that
Yep.
I'm part of something greater. But if you look out the other portal, which is nothing but blackness,
Yeah.
there's this existential dread, and that also can give chills, which
Yep.
is why both Pachelbel's canon can give me chills and can a scary movie, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's the same emotion, awe, depending on which portal you're looking out of. It's really your perspective. Am I nothing,
Yep.
right? Am I of no consequence at all?
Yep.
Or am I part of some grand cosmos?
Yep.
And so that's all I think intermixed in this psychology too.
Yeah, and within the individual, they're experiencing the joy while they're risking their life. So I think for you and
Mm.
me, it's a lesson in thinking and communicating these ideas about gravity to not be too simplistic, to not just talk about falling as bad, because falling can be like when children fall, they're learning, they're playing, like there is a freedom within that that can result in injury, but result in joy. So thinking about, okay, people are out there doing the most amazing thing that humanity has ever done individually and collectively, but their life is on the line. So they look into the abyss, into, the prospect of death, but they also look back on Earth and think, we, like, existence is just amazing. How did this happen? It must, all those existential questions, it must just froth up instantly to the surface. Imagine we could give people that feeling. Well, we get it when we watch the Artemis mission, obviously, but when that effect wears off, how do we maintain that sense of motivation and perspective? Well, one, by continuing Artemis 3 and continuing our exploration of space, but in terms of inner space, in terms of our mind, how do you get people to maintain that just feeling of life's good? Like, I have a choice about whether I see the void and I focus on that, or do I focus on the
Mm.
earth below and my place within it? We're being very extremely almost spiritual here because I think gravity has a spiritual dimension. It is a spiritual dimension. If people go to church or any place of contemplation or worship, they tend to be elevated ceilings. We've talked about this.
Yes.
That's
Cathedrals.
like a physical induction of awe, of scale, of you
Yeah.
are small, the world is big. That
Yeah.
you can make that into a good, positive feeling and a
Yes.
source of connection with other people. I think that's biogravitational medicine is a medical approach, but there is a spiritual element to it as well.
I'm also reminded of the term that, you taught me of, oceanic consciousness,
Or
this notion,
boundlessness.
boundlessness. Yeah. This, the way I think of it, notion, which I think is the felt experience of psychedelics, for example, when the sense of
Mm.
self dissolves into infinity
Yep.
and there is no longer a sense of self. You are, part of the simulation or whatever it is that we're in.
Mm.
And there's something reassuring about that, or it could be existentially dreadful,
Yeah.
depending on your perspective on
Can
that.
be a bad trip.
It's, it could,
People
so
have
it's a
bad
bad
trips
trip
at that
if,
point. Yeah.
yeah, if you've died, if your ego self has dissolved into nothingness and you are no longer of any significance because you're so broadly distributed and that you're no longer of any meaning because
Mm.
there's no center of gravity to you.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's sort of reassuring to know that I'm infinite. This form that I'm in right now is a transient one, but
Mm.
in a beautiful experience to be, on this planet, having this life right now. But at the same time, I know that in some way I'm actually distributed across the entirety of this universe, in
Mm.
some grand cosmic way, and some element of me will continue. Um, regardless of how this form, persists or doesn't. And even those thoughts enter my mind when I think about space voyage,
Mm.
because it forces you to confront these. How are you going to interpret the two portals of the spaceship.
Mm.
Are you going, if you go down the rabbit hole of existential dread, that basically is you saying, I am a self and this self will end.
Yeah.
And if you think about the other portal of, the awe-inspiring recognition that you are actually a very small part, but a part nonetheless of this unbelievable whole, then the same experience can be interpreted as like a beneficent, moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really interesting to contemplate.
Yeah. I think that contemplation point is key. That the astronauts are up there and they have these contemplative thoughts.
Mm,
There's a lot of talk of religion. I'm an atheist. I think about this kind of quest, this humanity's quest to go to space, as a naturalistic, humanistic, spiritual quest. That it's got to
mhm,
be something that is beyond ourselves, and it's spiritual in a physical sense. Like we're going into the heavens. That's all I mean by that term.
mhm.
I remember Bill Hicks, the comedian who passed away, I think, in the 90s. He talked about that contrast between the dread and the joy or the awe of existence. And he said, imagine if the news, which is usually all the bad stuff, all the dread, it bleeds, it leads, it's all negative. Imagine if they uh, uh, instead led with a person realizes that life is just the universe experiencing itself. Subjectivity is transient, and you are part of a cosmic whole. Imagine if they led with that as the news. Like we have a choice about what we attend to. In
Yes.
in which portal are we going down? Are
Yes.
we going down a social media doom scroll? Which I have
Yes.
to admit I've been doing of late with everything that's happening in the world. The news is really bad, and it's got my attention. Artemis was just the other portal, wasn't it? Was let's look at the
Yes.
what we can
Yes.
do when we put all that stuff aside, when we just drag ourselves away from its interminable gravitational pull. Let's look at what's beyond.
Well, the other thing is, coming back to this idea of the crew,
Mm.
and we are a crew, and that means we interrelate. We are a web of interconnections, and we rely and depend upon one another for our mutual survival. This is the story of evolution, really. And, humans, the only way a human could possibly have survived in the African plains without any ability to walk for a year would be full protection from a group of other humans that are
Mm.
working together to survive and thrive. And so I think about, if we consider the self a center of gravity of sorts, to have, gravitational pull on one another, physically, mentally, and we interrelate to each other and form a whole. And that's the whole idea of the positive awe. It's
Mm.
awe inspiring
Yeah.
to know that you're part of a greater organism.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe you're a tiny, almost insignificant part, but you are a part,
Yeah.
and we are all working together as one, one whole, one crew.
Yeah.
And that's how we survive and thrive. And if we look at the news that way, the positive news is when we're working together to make good things happen and to help
Mm.
people, and not to focus on the self above all else, where we fracture the coherence of those, like, gravitational bonds, and we break ourselves apart and fracture ourselves.
There couldn't be any clearer contrast at this point in history between selfishness and selflessness, I think. Like it's
Yes.
very clear what humanity is managing to do in terms of achievement and in terms of falling and crashing and burning. That is happening politically, it feels like, at the moment on a grand scale. But there are hopeful signs, and I think that's why
Yes.
the timing of the Artemis mission was just impeccable. And
Yes.
hopefully it's our portal out of civilizational destruction. I think there's
Well, I
no other
mean,
way. Otherwise, we're going to cycle in and in on ourselves. Because while there is, cooperation and we're all in this together, and that's wonderfully positive, there is also that tribalism, like you said, of we band together and sometimes compete. It is survival of the fittest. So how do we make ourselves collectively fit, not separately?
It's the ebbs and flow of humanity, of biology, of civilization. It's the ultimate struggle between selfishness and selflessness.
Mm,
And it is interesting, I don't want to get too political here, but to see how in the United States, certain political candidates like James Tallarico, who's training to be a minister in
mm,
Texas, is now rising quickly in popularity because of this message of peace and togetherness and loving thy neighbor and referring back to the original teachings, the simplest teachings of Jesus Christ. And we see the Pope now
mm,
taking on greater political gravity as he
yeah.
stands up to our president, and we're seeing signs of cohesion becoming once as it hasn't many times before, a more prominent theory
Mm,
of how humans should interrelate. And it's just interesting that, once again, bring this back to Artemis, the big takeaway for me was this conclusion that we are a crew
mm,
on this planet. And what does that mean? If we're really a crew, then we're working together
mm,
selflessly. And I do think that's, I believe, the ultimate purpose of humanity. It's just hard to get there. Martin Luther King talked about how the moral arc of history is long, but it inevitably bends towards justice. And even in our short lives, we've seen that come true, even though in any
mm.
given moment it may not feel like it. There's ebbs and flows, but
Ups and
just go back,
downs, ups and
just
downs.
look at the net result of history. We are seeing an ability to work together for common good. It just doesn't always
Mm,
feel that way.
yeah.
So I think we're at a very interesting point in our history, and the question will be how AI and technology and how we use these artifacts of our productivity, either for or against the common good. And we're taking on a lot of topics now from a space
Yeah.
mission, but that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of
But
what I
that's what
think this
happens.
represents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's holistic. You see the whole planet in one go. You kind of see all of humanity and everything that we're doing. We're doing medicine. You do sort of technology and medicine together. I do kind of, mental health and medicine, sort of social science and medicine together. So you kind of do see it all kind of converge, which is what gravity is. It is a coherence, convergence force within the universe. So I think it's not just this up down dimension. People think, okay, the rocket goes up and comes back down. There's something about the scale, the connection that we make within it, the understanding that we get from reflecting back. Humanity's growth and development is not this simple linear upward trend. There are ups and downs within it, but like a tree grows down into the ground in order to grow up, we are deepening our understanding of ourselves and the universe in order to grow up and out ourselves and to explore. And I think I've I've struggled sometimes to see, Brennan, where our biogravitational medicine is heading. It's like forest for the trees. We're working on the podcast. You got your book. I'm doing my mental gravity stuff. All these busy daily tasks. The motivation, though, since Artemis captured the public consciousness, has tripled, quadrupled for me. I just feel so much more certain in my gut that we're doing the right thing, that we're doing something scientific and grounded in reality, that we're doing for the right reasons. We're not doing it. We're not hosting a podcast because we're bros and you're tech and we love, ourselves, and we're doing it selfishly. I can feel the selfless mission behind what we're doing more clearly as a result. So that's been a real gift in the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, it's been, you know, first of all, great meeting you. We've
Mm.
known each other now for a couple years, but I know there's more of us out in the world, and um, part of this podcast is just putting kind of a bat signal out into the sky,
Mm.
calling all biogravitational, brethren who may have
Inviting
similar. Yeah,
inviting others into the crew. This is our pod. This is our
into the
capsule.
crew, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Who else is thinking like this, and what can we learn from one another, and how can we really ground ourselves. There's another metaphor in the physics of our reality, and what can we learn from that about the metaphysics of our
Mm.
reality? And it's just it's been a lot of fun having these conversations, and as unstructured as they are, is why I love them.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Me too, Brennan. This is a special time, special connection that we've made, a special little pod that we have inhabited as a crew of two that will hopefully
Yeah.
grow over time. So thank you for listening, everyone. Brennan, all the best in the coming weeks. I'm going to see you in Australia in 4 weeks' time, which is really, really exciting to promote your book. And hopefully we'll be launching Mental Gravity, the initiative, the sort of the app and everything that I'm doing at the same time while you're here. So I really look forward to that.
Absolutely. Can't wait to come down. And until then, I guess we'll wait until Artemis 3. We'll continue the discussion.
All right. Cheers.
If you like that episode, please like and subscribe and tell your friends about the Gravity Doctors. You can also follow us on social media. Check out the book Pull, and you can also check out our show notes for tips and links to some of our scientific articles. You can follow us online at thegravitydoctors.com. You can follow me, BrennanSpiegelMD.com, and Dr. Lachlan at lachlankent.au.